Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to another episode here at USA Global TV and Radio. We provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And for all of our entrepreneurs here on our platform and across the world, this year we are focused on helping you sell your vision. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show is The Listening Mentor. And our topic today is really right on point. Managing disagreements in relationships. As much as we hate to have a disagreement, or some people I know they are junky disagreement people, they love to have chaos and conversations about things that they know other people are not going to be happy about. We're going to find out about all of this from our expert, Caroline.heward. She is the Harley Street stress expert. She's a certified therapist. She's had more training and more certifications than I could even begin to discuss. But we love her for that because she truly has a heart full of gold and a mind filled with so much incredible value. Let's welcome her to the program. Joining us from London, Caroline.heward.
Oh, thank you. Oh, bless you.
Welcome, my friend. How are you?
What a lovely introduction. Oh, I feel quite blessed.
Well, it's all true. And I just thank you for being the beautiful person you are inside and out. And when it comes to training, I can't even keep up. You are someone who's constantly seeking new information so you can pass it on to your clients. And also you can offer it up here on this platform. And I really respect that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm always evolving and changing because I do that. And I'm always clearing up the stuff that doesn't work and letting go of things that don't work. And that evolves me as a person. And it makes me more for who I'm working with and who I'm being able to help. So it's important. And I actually had somebody come round today because I've had some problems with my drainage. And he did something different. And he said he was 61. And I said, well, you're just slightly older than me. And he says, no way. And I reckon it really is all the work that I do, all the training. And I'm constantly clearing out what's not working and evolving and learning from the challenges. And that's how I work and that's how I roll.
And we like the way you roll. So thank you again. I want to say hello to our new viewers on Instagram. We're really happy to have you. And also to all of our listeners who are on a podcast platform and our viewers who are on TV platforms. Caroline, our topic today is one that you came up with, managing disagreements. And I mentioned at the top of the hour that some people love to disagree. I don't know what it is. I've known people like this. I've been involved with people like this. It's whatever you say, they have to say the opposite. But if we're all to get along or have some kind of progress or feel like we are happy in our relationships, do we always have to agree?
No. You can actually say, let's agree to disagree, because we are all human. We'll all have different perspectives. And I feel that that's important to note, that we'll be coming at things and seeing things from our own personal filters, our own personal experiences. And when you say the words, let's agree to disagree, and then there is no conversation, then you're kind of both saying your perspectives and agreeing that it's right, what you believe is right for you and what they believe is right for them. And so it works for both of you. And then there is no combat and no, I call it a tennis match when you go backwards and forwards. Well, I don't believe that's true. That should be this and this should be that. And no, it's this way. And I call that the tennis match, going backwards and forwards, where you never really get anywhere. But if you say the words, let's agree to disagree, then hopefully it should calm down.
I agree with that. And I love that phrase. What I'm wondering is it easier to agree to disagree if you're not intimately involved with someone, or if they're not a very close family member?
I'm humming and laughing because we did a pressing family buttons, I think it was one show ago or a couple of shows ago, and this is the same sort of thing. Sometimes you have to learn when to go silent. You have to learn to let them say what they need to say and listen without feeling that you have to put your two penneth in to win. And I know that's difficult because we are human and the ego will get in the way. That sometimes some people will say things that they know will push a button or strike a chord with you that will make you want to say something. And if that happens, you have to learn to, I call button it, listen without feeling the need to disagree and go into that tennis match of, this person agrees this, I believe this, and going into that space, because they will say something to deliberately move you into a place of that conflict. So it's up to you. If you like the conflict and like the debate, then that's okay, if that's how you live your life. But if you want to have a more peaceful life, I think it's best sometimes to listen without comment and allow whatever comes up to come up in their world, so you don't get involved in what's going on in their world.
Excellent point. Thank you. I kind of think it's interesting to hear other perspectives. And the reason I brought up that question about when you're intimately involved with someone, it's more difficult, I think, to keep your emotions at bay. But if it's not somebody that you're really intimately involved with, you can listen and you know what? Okay, she thinks that, he thinks that, I think this, and I'll learn something from them. But if it's somebody you're really crazy about and they don't agree with what you think, it's like, what's wrong with you? You never listen to me, blah, blah, blah. You always think, it goes on and on and on. And the emotions, it just starts rolling out. And then it's a complete nightmare. So let's talk a little bit about a disagreement. Okay, we don't have a dictionary here. Do they even use dictionaries? I don't know. But what would you say is the definition of a disagreement? It might sound trite, but it's really not.
Well, it's when you have, say, if it was you and me, for instance, taking an example, if I believed one thing about a situation and you believed from your perspective a different thing, and we were coming together in sort of collaboration to deliver on that situation, if we're both coming at it from different perspectives because of our different viewpoints, then you are disagreeing and you can't go forward. And so you either don't go forward and say, okay, then this clearly isn't working, or you find a way to come back to have that compromise situation. So the disagreement is where both parties believe different things about a circumstance, situation, or an event.
I want to just add something to that because that was brilliant. If you think about it, I don't know what the court system is like there, but think about something that goes before a jury and they have to make a decision. And you see this in movies when they have movies where it involves some kind of jury discussion or panel. And one person is the holdout. They don't believe the person's guilty or they argue, whatever the case is. And then it's a hung jury because they couldn't come to an agreement. And so then there's a whole bunch of ramifications that typically come from that. But yet the other people are, I don't want to say desperately, but they're really trying to get the other person to see their perspective, and they're holding their ground. So in that kind of scenario, when it involves a legal situation, is that managing disagreements, or is that not even disagreement?
This is actually when the jury system, they have to come to some kind of an agreement in terms of the majority. So in the UK, the legal system is it's either a majority or unanimous, that's everyone. And if they can't come to a unanimous decision, that's everyone, then they sometimes say, well, is there a majority that have a decision? And sometimes they go with a majority. I'm not sure if that's the case in the US, but certainly here that can sometimes happen. But it depends on, sort of certainly if there's like sort of murder or manslaughter, those are really big issues, because that's different sentences. I'm not so clued up on the legal system. I know that here you can go unanimous, and if there's one person that's dissenting and not agreeing, especially if it's a big capital case, sort of a murder case, then there has to be, some compromise, and they will have more discussion and more debate to see if they can get a unanimous vote. And if they can't, they go with a majority.
Okay, let's go with what you just said and bring it into personal relationships. This is one thing that I remember from previous relationships. You have a discussion and you come to an agreement, but you really didn't want to agree. You just did it so the conversation would end. Okay, I'll just say whatever. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And then later, a year later, a month later, 10 years later, you go, hey, how about this? Remember when we were having this conversation? Well, I didn't actually believe that, and I just said it to shut you up. So I want to talk about it again.
That's a challenging one. This is where you're in a relationship and somebody's bringing up the past all the time. And that's challenging in terms of moving forward. I don't particularly like being in that situation where somebody brings up the past of like 6 months, a year ago. And I certainly like to live quite present, in the present moment. But there is something, to be stored by an experience that somebody did something to you, or you had an experience and then you can't forget it. And so if that happens, if I have a negative experience with somebody, I'm a little bit apprehensive about putting my head in the lion's mouth again and being in the same experience. And at the same time, I'm not a person that likes to be in a conflict situation. And so sometimes I do agree to disagree, or do what I can to make what I believe the situation to be right. And then I will walk away. It's very, very difficult when somebody keeps bringing up the past and living in the past, because you can never move forward if somebody is always regurgitating what you, he, she did and said that's in the past.
Brilliant. Thank you. I want to talk about you and your work as a therapist. So you have a couple who come to see you, and it's this situation. It's, what? We are constantly disagreeing, and then I just give in, he just gives in, and then it's brought up later. Do you coach them or work with them that there's a boundary? You have to set a boundary that you've discussed it X number of times, or for a certain amount of, I don't even know what the boundaries would be. But at some point, I would think in order to move forward, this issue has to be resolved one way or another, and it's put to bed.
That's totally right. I would literally get them to, because it's bringing up stuff. So every time a topic or subject is being brought up again and again, it's causing conflict. And I would ask the question, what is behind the person that's bringing up the past time and time again, when it's obviously causing a conflict? What's the rationale, and what are they feeling that makes them bring it up? What's making them bring it up? There must be, for that person, something that they're trying to resolve internally into the relationship. So it'll be the person I would ask that's bringing it up and what's forcing them to, because there will be some undealt with issues in terms of emotion or feeling that's making them bring it up. If it's a practical, logical, usually that doesn't come into play. It's only when it's unexpressed emotions that somebody will keep repeating an experience or an event or a situation to come through the feelings and emotions that they didn't express.
I love that. And let's look at as an example. I believe I saw this on a movie at some point, but a gentleman, he's married to his wife, and he has a career opportunity that is a lot of money, and it's going to require that they relocate. And he comes and tells his wife, got this great opportunity. And at the very end, when he goes through all the great things that are going to happen, he mentions, and we have to move to Wyoming. And she's like, what? I can't do it up. And they do it. And the whole time she's seething. She's furious. The kids are furious, but everybody does it because this is what's supposed to happen. And at some point, the marriage has like a crack in it. And then this is just, it all comes out. And that crack gets even bigger. So at the very outset, in this example that I just gave you, what would be if a couple came to you and this is the scenario, what would you advise so that there's not that disagreement that's never been resolved?
There has to be a place that's safe to have that conversation. And I say that genuinely. They have to come to a point of having a genuine conversation about what each one feels about the situation. Because sometimes you agree and you go along with it, and that's kind of being in a very compromising relationship where you're just saying yes. You've become a yes within the relationship. But when you've actually moved and you're not feeling very happy and all of that is behind it, that's the feeling and emotion. So you've done the practical, logical, physical, because you have to do something. You have to make the decision and you have to do the moving and all the other practical things. But then it's the feelings and emotions. And if you're not expressing those feelings and emotions about how you are feeling about that move each time, then that will build. And what will happen is the person that's doing things logically, physically, and practically, they will have some unexpressed and undealt with emotions, which they are suppressing. And it will be expressed in terms of their behavior, their experience with the person, and also in the way that they are living their life in that relationship. So they will almost be shut down and not feeling that they can express their true authenticity. And many people are in those kinds of relationships where they just settle. That's the word I'm going to use. They settle because they don't want to affect the other person and cause any conflict situations. But while they're settling, they're not actually living their true lives. They are in a compromising relationship, whether it be friendship or intimate relationship, and then they're not really feeling that they're living their own life. They're living in someone's shadow.
Beautifully put. Thank you. What else is coming to mind for me is in that scenario is the wife could look at it as, okay, this is something that he really believes is for the best for all of us. So I'm going to go with it. You know what? I'm just going to say, I'm going to make the best of it. It's an experience. It's an opportunity. And then you convey that to the children as well, instead of everyone except for him being like, oh, this is horrible. I don't want to do it. And then you get there and you go, I told you we didn't want to live here. It's too cold. It's too this, it's too that. And then the person he still has to go to work and do what he has to do. So the other thing that's coming up for me is if it's that much of you can't tolerate it, you have the option to raise your hand and say, you're going without me. Not going.
That does happen. I've seen couples that have done that, and they're sort of having this long distance relationship where the man is in his work and flying in different places, and the woman's settled in the family home, and the partner goes back to see the family and his wife when he's on weekends. And this is a compromise that I've seen a lot, especially if a job takes the man to different parts of the world. And then they sort of go home to their families. They might be away for 4 or 5 days, and then they're back with their family for the weekend, and then off again on the Monday morning. That's definitely, that's what I would call a compromise, that they found a way that the family still stays where they're happy, and the man goes to work and then he comes home. So he almost has 2 homes.
And it could be for the woman also. She's the primary breadwinner as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I should have, I meant to say that. And then I sort of got carried away, because I know so many people that are men that are living away. But yes, of course, it just depends on who it is in that role. And I would be quite happy, to be in a relationship like that, because I have a lot of things that I do on my own, and a lot of things, commitments that I have. And I wouldn't want somebody around me while I'm doing a TV show, if you know what I mean. Because
you're almost done. What are you doing there? On the green screen. I know, I get it.
I have quiet. I mean, I really have supreme, peaceful quiet when I do my shows. And if there was somebody around and making a cup of tea, and that would be quite challenging for me, because I live in so much silence. And so I would be quite happy to be in that sort of relationship where, my partner was off everywhere and doing things, and then coming back, and we shared, because I would say that for me, that would be quality time, that we come together when it's good. And when we're both being together, it's that couple time, and then we're away from each other when we're working. And for some people it works, and some people, they actually want to be together 24/7. I'm not sure that I would cope with that, to be honest with you.
I'm right with you. I want the exact same thing that you just described. So there, we put it out to the universe. I'm in complete silence, except for the giant iguana that is on the roof making a lot of noise. Not this second, but he or she was for the last show. But otherwise, it's perfectly silent.
Oh my gosh.
So here's what I want to ask you. And this is, again, as a therapist, you meet someone and you have this chemistry, you have this spark, you have some things in common, but you're really disagreeing a lot from the outset. Is this a red flag, or is this an opportunity?
It can be both. And it's really interesting that you've couched it in, can it be, sort of good or not good? Because you could, by listening to the other person, you could learn a different perspective. And so you learn wisdom. And that's exactly what I do when I'm constantly in some kind of training. That because I've been doing the work that I do for over 2 decades now, I'm constantly, looking for different solutions and different ways to look at things, because I'm interested in how things have evolved and changed. When I first started training, there was no YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or any kind of social media. And so now there's much more openness, and there's much more wisdom now that's being shared globally. And so much more, the world has become smaller because it's more accessible. So I feel that I listen, I'm open to hear. And then what I do is I say, well, I like that bit, so I'm going to take that bit. And I'm not so keen on that bit, so I'm going to leave that bit with you. And I really like this bit, but I'm going to alter it a little bit, because that will really work with what I'm doing. And so I'm I call it being open to look, to listen, and then take on board what feels good, and put to the side what doesn't feel that it resonates and what's right for me.
Thanks for sharing that. And I'm wondering, you have a relationship, you love the person, they love you, and you want to be able to understand them better. Are there certain techniques, tools, skills that you can coach people on to be able to manage disagreements?
Yes, there are many different ways of people coming together to look at what's not working. And at times, when it's very, very difficult, when it's challenging and it's a sticky subject, it might be children, for instance, where it can be that the man doesn't want the children and the woman does, or vice versa, where they're trying to compromise but not really feeling very happy, or they've decided to have a date night, and they're not really into it. So they're kind of just going through the motions without really being in it. It is to have what I would call an honest conversation, a conversation where you schedule time and you each have some time where you're not judged, not interrupted, that you have like your 5 or 10 minutes of expressing what you think, what you'd like, and what you feel were the best way forward in that situation that you're having the disagreement about. And then the woman does the same, and she then, and each time that each partner listens openly without interruption, and then with what's being said and shared, that you come to an agreement of what's being shared as to how you could walk forward in resolving the disagreement. Now, for some couples, that could be, oh my gosh, she just wants everything her own way, or he only wants everything his own way. And so sometimes then, if it is really, really challenging and a very sticky personal subject, sometimes then it's good to have somebody like myself or a mediator or marriage guidance to help you through the mediation of finding a place of agreement, because you're human and we're not going to always agree on everything. So it's about finding a compromise. And I'm just going to share this one thing that I did when I was married. My then husband was very into farms and the canals and sort of hanging around on a farm with animals. And it didn't really appeal at that time to me, because I was dressed up, really glammed up, and we're kind of mucking around, on a farm and a barge. And it wasn't really my thing. But what I did was I wanted to please him. And so I wanted to be with him. And then there came a point that I just said, you know what? Why don't you do your thing with your friends, and then I'll do my thing with my friends, and we can kind of share what we've done in the middle, so that we have different things that we enjoy and different interests. And it did work, because I think that if you're glued at the hip, you lose the magic of that sharing, of coming together.
That's such a good point that you brought up, and thanks. I can't see you on the barge. But
no,
I'm not there either. So the two of us are not at the barge. But here's my question for you. And this actually was in a movie with Jennifer Aniston, and I can't think of it, when Vince Vaughn. I might have brought it up before, but she asked him to go to the store and buy some lemons for this vase, this centerpiece that she was going to make for the table. It's a clear vase, and you put and he went and he got them, and he's like, I went and got them. And then she asked him to clean the dishes, and he did it, but he wasn't really happy about doing these things. And he said, I did what you asked. And she's like, but I want you to really love what you did, because it's not just, and he's like, but I did it. It's not enough that I did it. No, I want you to really love it. So you could have gone on the barge and done it. And he'd be like, well, you don't really seem to be happy. I want you to be happy. And you're like, well, I did what you wanted. And then that's a disagreement.
Yeah, what I did was, I remember spending one New Year, it was the only one, he wanted to spend New Year going on the canal on a boat, on this barge, and it was really cold, and we were chopping ice, and I was glued to, I think it was what they call the exhaust, where it was the warmest bit, and so I was on the top, literally holding the funnel thing that came up, where all the heat came up from the barge. And I was just holding it in my magic gloves, which also kept my hands warm, and not actually really dressed in the right warm gear, because we were trekking along the iced canal to get to our destination, which took, I think it was all day and all night. And when we got there, we were given hot soup to warm up. And even though I did it, because I thought it'd be really fun to go along the canal, I thought that would be really cool. But actually, I got very cold. I didn't feel great. And having hot soup on a New Year didn't really it wasn't my thing. To me. But I did it, and I did it once. And I thought, you know what, I've done that, and it's not for me. And it was for me to be part of his world, but then he became part of mine and did things that I enjoyed, and I left him to do those kind of things when we were not together.
It sounds like a nice compromise.
Yeah, well, we did do that. We did kind of agree to disagree, I guess. And he did his things, and I did my things, and I did a lot of my training. I was out most weekends training, and he was really cool with it. I did have a lot of freedom in that marriage, probably too much. And sometimes they don't work, even though you have lots of the compromises. I felt that what I did was I got married to a very good friend, like a brother, a mate, and not really, sort of a husband and a lover. And that was, sort of the challenge in that relationship, that it was not really what I thought it was going to be, but I actually got a lot out of it. And that's why I stayed there for so long.
Yeah, well, that's the good part, definitely. Something else I think is interesting, and I've shared this before, I love to work out. And whether I love it every minute, every day, it doesn't matter, because it's part of who I am. And yet I've been in relationships with people who are like chain smokers and don't exercise at all. And there's always that feedback that, oh, you're always off working out. It's like, well, I told you that when I met you, just like you're a chain smoker and I hate smoking, right? But I'm not complaining about it. So my point is, you show someone who you are, they allegedly embrace who you are, and then they want to throw it in your face, which is obviously a disagreement, but you can't change. This is me, take me or not. You said you're taking me, and now you're ripping me apart.
Yeah, this is when we meet someone and we love them and we spark with them and their chemistry is there. And then when we get into that relationship, we want to change them. It's kind of weird, isn't it? It's
so weird.
It's what happens for a lot of couples, that they love the person that they meet, but then they want to fundamentally change who you're being, and then it doesn't work so well anymore, because you become what they want you to be, and it doesn't gel. And my suggestion in that is to be able to stand in your authenticity. Because when you are your authentic self and you're not wearing a mask and an identity to be with the relationship that you're in, then you're your true self in whatever situation. And we do wear, this is something that's very, very common for people, that we wear masks in different relationships and different circumstances. So we might have a mask with our family, with our parents, with our siblings. We might have a mask with our friendships, our social friendships. We might have a mask at work. We might have a mask with our social environment when we're not in work, and we might have a mask when we're on our own. Then we're being our true selves. You know what they say about dance like nobody's watching you. I kind of do that all the time, whether somebody's watching me or not, and that's because I've got rid of and done a lot of work over the years of literally removing all the identities that I think I should be, and I'm more myself. And that means that I'm happier being who I really am, rather than trying to please someone. And just in that final piece that I've just said, in trying to please someone, I've stopped being a people pleaser. And many of us are people pleasing, which is why when we're in a disagreement, we don't follow what's true for us. And then internally we are in a disagreement, and then we're not happy.
Such great points that you brought up. We're struggling. I want to talk about another kind of relationship. I've never been in this kind of relationship. I don't know if you have, but I've definitely known people who have. They argue all the time, and then they have incredible sex. And they're like, yeah, the sex was amazing. It's like that. It's like building up to something. Can you explain what that is?
Yes, I can. And there are people that I know that are like that are in couples and are not in couples anymore. And it's the spark, it's the chemistry, it's the loving to make up. So it's like they have a big bust up, a big, sort of argument, and then the making up seems very passionate, very, sort of physical, and it's that passion that is sparking the disagreements. And so that's why it's so amazing. I must admit that wouldn't really appeal to me. I'd rather just have the amazing rather than the disagreement and the sparking. I'd rather have it amazing and sensual rather than having to spark before, in terms of a disagreement and a row before, the making up. Yes, I know a lot of couples that are like that, and it's the way that they find of getting their spark increased and their passion increased.
Is it healthy?
I wouldn't think so, because that's very detrimental, and if you're extremely stressed, it's not a great place to be internally, because when you're stressed, the body produces cortisol in terms of a higher acidic environment in your body. And so it can have all sorts of repercussions in terms of your digestive system, your heart, your blood pressure. So I don't really think it's that great a strategy, but it is a strategy for some that don't know any other way.
And if you think about it, and I'm not saying this is personal experience either or not, but how long are you in bed versus how long you're not? You know what I mean? So if you're constantly arguing and you're spending whatever amount of time pleasuring, the rest of the time you're probably miserable.
Yeah, it's not but some people live like that for years because, as you say, the sex is really great, or the making up's really good, or it's just the way they vibe, that's the way that they are. And if it is like that and they're staying in it, there's obviously something that's making them stay.
It's true. Did you ever see the movie, I hope I get the title right, War of the Roses, with Michael Douglas and I think Kathleen Turner?
That sounds familiar, actually, War of the Roses, but I'm not quite sure of the plot, so you'll have to forgive me, but that does sound familiar.
I think that's the title, and I think their last name was Rose. And anyway, long story short, they had this relationship, and then all of a sudden it started falling apart. And rather than leave each other, they were constantly screaming and yelling and doing things to hurt one another and sabotaging one another behind the back. And then I think at the end, I forget if it was both of them, like hanging from the chandelier. I can't remember. But watching it, you think to yourself, how could you stay in this situation? Yet people live like that all the time.
Yeah, I do remember it now, because their last name was Rose, wasn't it? And that was what the War of the Roses was. It was a romance. It was a sort of a comedy, drama romance of the man and woman, husband and wife always arguing. That now you've described it, I remember it. Yes, well, sometimes people like to argue because it's the way that it was in their own family. And if you've come from a family that were always arguing and shouting with each other, this sometimes then repeats in your own personal life. And it was something that actually came up while I was on my training course on the weekend, that the woman generally marries the father, so the way that the father is, and the son generally marries how the mother was with them. And when you look at external couples, not yourself, because it's not so easy to see your own, but when you look at people and you know their families, their parents, you would be able to see as an observer, oh, she's married her father and he's married his mother, because you can see the behaviors, and it's what we feel comfort in and safe in without understanding it. It's just that's the way that we feel and we become attracted to.
What a great topic. We could go on and on. I want to spend a few minutes with you talking about how you can help people. Obviously, you're the Harley Street stress expert and you help people bust their stress, but you help people in a lot of ways. Stress obviously is at the crux of it. Can you talk to us? You've got so many certifications and ways that you have taken your certificates and your knowledge to a new level. How can you help people in addition to busting their stress?
Well, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. One of the things that I do is I offer retreat style appointments, and that's kind of taking more time out, because when we're in a consultation, we're only like sort of in an hour. But when there's a retreat style appointment, then you can be with me for kind of 2 or 3 or even 4 hours, where I do different types of rituals. So breathing practices. So when you're with me and you're doing a breathing practice for about 2 or 3 hours, it completely changes the way that you experience and feel. I also do singing bowls, which calm the mind and move your mind into complete silence and reconnects you to your body, so that your whole body starts to vibrate with your own energy and the mind goes completely clear. And so many people actually say that they're stressed, that they can't switch off, they can't move into a state of inner peace. They're just constantly on and their mind is just very, very busy. So I do a range of different practices and I work with the person. I also do a blindfolded taste sensation as well, where when you take away the eyes, then your smell sensory and your taste sensory heighten. And taste is the sensory of the second chakra, which is related to your creativity, is related to your movement towards the things that you desire, and it's also related to your sexual energy. So many times if you're struggling and you're in autopilot, this is a really fast ritual to get you into the experience of reconnecting back to your own sexual energy. And I also do guided relaxation, whole body guided relaxation, breath work, a rebirthing ceremony. And these are things where you're not in a 1 hour having a conversation. These are practices that I do to move the person into a state of inner bliss, a state of inner calm, and where there's no mind. Even dance, I do dance meditation and, lying down breath work. And it's just really powerful because it's a time where I call it an oasis, a time away from everything and an indulgence for you so that you feel different and you go back into your life feeling and experiencing your body and your mind in a very different way.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for all the value that you bring to me and to our channel and to all of the people out there. I just really honor you and love you. So thank you.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for always having me here. I mean, I love this show. This is just such a fun show. And I think it's really fair to say I never know how this is going to go. There's no script here, is there, Dr. Jacalyn? I have a subject. I have no idea what you're going to fire at me at all. And I'm here. And I really think one day I'm going to be saying, I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
It's never happened in, 2 or 3 years. But I do have something I want you to share. So this show was on Fridays and we've moved to Tuesdays. So if you can just let our audience know, when can they expect to see you here?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we've moved from Fridays at 7 p.m. because things have changed for me and it's got pretty busy on a Friday. And so now we are every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And the next time I'm doing every first Tuesday of the month normally and the last Tuesday of the month. So I'm with you again next week because next week will be the first Tuesday of the month. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. And we still have to come up with an interesting topic.
That is the challenge. The audience has no idea that, it's not easy if you've done however many shows to come up with new topics, but sometimes we revisit topics we've already had because it was a year ago or whatever, and it's the same issues that people have. So it's important. So please do go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, and subscribe. And again, check us out on the podcast platforms because we're there as well. So we are going to sign off with some of our sponsorships. And we really appreciate our sponsors as well. Thank you, beautiful Caroline. I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. This program is brought to you in part by the British School of Excellence and founder, Mr. Philip Sykes. Building confidence, changing lives. Do you share our view that etiquette is a set of modern life skills that are essential for personal and professional success? Join us as an etiquette coach and change people's lives through the power of etiquette and manners.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSc.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our clients for their testimonials on the Train the Trainer program. Our exponential and global growth is so significant that we've evolved from the British School of Etiquette to the British School of Excellence, where we're investors in people. Let us invest in you and your career. Contact us to become an etiquette coach. Go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. Start your career and elevate your success today.